Previously on The Business.
Joining us today is Greg Secker in studio. Good morning to you, Greg. How are you?
Great. How are you?
I'm exceptionally very, very, very well. Considering it's a Monday, actually. It's all an act, though, really. It's just a large weekend. Let's talk about you being in South Africa. It's your around 50th time, you say. You're back here, and you're amazingly, from what I understand, from what you pick up on the internet, you're very involved in giving back to communities. Before we go there, because there's a lot to talk about, let's just go back quickly a few steps and track your progress up until now. Just give us a brief overview of how you ended up sitting here talking to us.
Okay. Well, it started with charity in South Africa. That's how I got introduced. I supported charity in Port Elizabeth, and I was giving a talk to some students who were about to leave university and go and get their first job. And they said, can you give like an inspiring motivational talk? And I gave a talk, and people said, wow, that was amazing. We never looked at life from that point of view. And I said, well, you must have summits and things here where different gurus from around the world come. And they said, no, there's nothing like that. There's the odd success summit around, but we normally have to travel outside of South Africa. Now, I speak on this platform all over the world, mostly sort of the States, UK, Australasia, that part of the world. So I thought, well, let's see if we can do a summit here. And we did one last year. We were doing a connection trip with Richard Branson when he was opening the Branson Centre for Entrepreneurship here in Joburg. And I said to him, well, given we're all here in town, would you agree to headline a success event? And he agreed to do it. And when, of course, he agreed to do it, everybody else wanted to get involved. And it was a massive success, actually. It was amazing.
Do you find it remarkable that that in this day and age of widely accessed information on the internet and stuff like that, things like this, seminars like this, education courses, education for youngsters and for just the general population really aren't that prominent? I find it fascinating. We often talk about educating people financially on this show.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? And there is so much information. I mean, if you just sit on YouTube, you could grab loads of this information. But of course, people don't sit there and watch the whole thing. They'll watch it for a few minutes, then they'll go off and do something else. Whereas, when you've got the best of the best in the world, they're in front of you for the next 8 hours, and they've got an hour and a half on stage. You've got your notepad, you've got your hour and a half to listen to them, and they're only there for a short period of time. And there's something quite sort of meeting these people in person and being able to answer questions and really getting to feel like you can kind of get close enough to touch them. And it's
Andrew, it is Andrew, is it? Yeah,
that's correct.
You'll forgive me for kind of jumping in here and welcoming you to the show as well. Tell us a little bit about your role with the summit.
Yeah, I've developed a program called The Millionaire Within, and it's about wealth psychology and exactly what it takes to become wealthy and successful these days. Obviously, money is a very sensitive subject out there. People relate to money in different ways, and it's the most important thing when it comes to becoming successful in life. People have a perception that education is everything, but wealth is the program of the mind, and this is what it takes to be really successful out there.
I'd like to know what it's like being in a country like South Africa, where the gap is so obvious. There are the haves and the have-nots. You drive around here, just across the hill is one of the biggest and most poor areas in Johannesburg, Alexandra Township. Up the road a few kilometers, there's Soweto, which is now growing, but very poor people. And then you look around Sandton in Johannesburg, and there is a lot of wealth. How do you justify talking to the haves about the have-nots?
Well, it's a great question, and the challenge is that the have-nots, the same messages perseverate, don't they? Which is, when people hear the messaging, we can't afford it, or it's too expensive. The meaning that's attached to that in their mind is not that maybe they should exercise some fiscal restraint in these times of economic downturn. It's more that there are people in life who can afford things, and perhaps we're not in that category. And I think that shuts people down from ever really taking the necessary steps to give it a go. And I think that, so therefore what happens is a belief set gets set in people that this is as far as they can go and they can go no further. And so I always say that, the realms of possibility within our own mind are built within inside the walls of our belief. How do you move that line? I believe it's not that people are aiming up here and missing it. I think people are aiming down here and hitting it. And so, if step one is shifting the belief in people, what is the tool to make that happen? And from my experience, my opinion only, is get them to spend time with people who believe something different. And people who are the have-nots don't like spending time with the haves, shall we say, because when you spend time with the haves, the contrast is so apparent of what you don't have. And so we've got to kind of break that down and make sure that people have access to people that are living in a different mindset and can mentor them and help them along the way a little bit. Okay,
so let's talk about that then. What are some of the little drops of wisdom that you're going to be feeding to folks and giving some insight into in the seminar over the next few days? Well, the 1st and 2nd of March, sorry.
The first thing I think it is about redefining what success is. Because for some people, it's about having lots of money. For other people, it's about being a great parent or being a great partner. And so it's not just all about making money. So there's what we like to think is always an eclectic lineup of speakers. That you've got people from a Jordan Belfort, who is the Wolf of Wall Street, to a Steve Wozniak, who set up arguably one of the most successful companies on the planet today, being Apple Computers, to speakers in the area of sort of spirituality, to making a difference, to relationships, to investment strategies, to entrepreneurialism, and of course contribution. And I think what's interesting about South Africa, certainly from my perception being a Brit that's come over here, is that South Africans seem to be more kind of spiritually in touch than the rest of the world. So when you put somebody like a Dr. John DeMartini, who I think is one of the best speakers on the planet, he's got his headquarters here in South Africa because he loves the country. I mean, he doesn't even live anywhere in the world. He lives on a boat called the World. He's sort of constantly travelling and moving. The guy can't stack him down. But when he comes, he really gets the place going with a roar.
I'm just thinking that must confuse the hell out of the tax man.
For a good reason.
Where's your primary residence? On a boat?
That's right.
Yeah. Okay, so you talk about spirituality, you talk about the background behind that. How does that tie in with your kind of philosophy, Andrew? Is it very much tied in with the same thing?
Yeah, pretty much exactly the same, yeah. I mean, it comes down to, what is it that you actually want in life? And I think people that have clarity, people that know what they want, are very likely to achieve exactly that. I came from a middle class family, and I saw many arguments in the household around the subject of money, and it's about choice and how you perceive and what does it actually mean. There are certain people. There's a question that you asked earlier on regarding there are certain people that aren't so fortunate being brought up in a certain environment, and then there's other people that are fortunate to be brought up in a certain environment as well. So it's actually, what does it mean, and how do you take it from to the next level is really, really important. I mean,
do you give folks tangible goals to reach during this? Because it's all very well talking about this,
True.
But you've got to have steps to kind of follow.
It's exactly that. If you think about what is the secret to success, what is everyone's
Yeah,
got a
yeah,
different
yeah,
slant
yeah.
on it.
Yeah.
But the way the brain works, it works on something called cognitive dissonance, which is I'm here and I want to go there. Okay, but by not clearly defining where there is, the brain has three modes. It has red, green, and amber. Red is dead, so let's not even bother talking about that. Amber is there's nothing to do. Imagine one of those old 90s computers with the cursor flashing on the screen. It's like waiting for a command, yet nothing to do.
Unfortunately, I'm of that age that I don't have to imagine. I remember it well. Yeah.
And so most people, when you ask them what they want, they don't know what they want because they haven't issued the instruction to their brain. They haven't been specific about what the goal is. It's all right saying, I want to lose some weight. Well, go to the bathroom. Hey, you just lost some weight. But what about if you give the brain an instruction, I need to lose 5 pounds in 20 days, then the brain's got some steps in between where you are and where you need to go. And sadly, most people never get to really define the goal because they're too afraid to not achieve the goal. They think if I state what the goal is and I don't achieve it, then I'll live in hell. So this is all about helping people understand the difference between where they are and where they need to go to set the goal, making it very specific, and then most importantly, giving them strategies and tools to help them get there quickly, rather than take the long route. And by spending time with people who already live in the belief reality you need to be in. For example, you want to be a marathon runner, hanging out with a bunch of Americans who eat pizza, it's probably not the right route to go.
Right.
But hang out with a bunch of Ethiopians who understand what slow-burning fuel is and understand how to use their body in such a way they can run 12 marathons in 10 days. You're spending time with people in a different belief mindset, and they give you two things. They give you shortcuts, and they give you something called belief transference. And we think that's what it's about. So when you aggregate people like this from all walks of life into a summit like this, and they have access to some of these real thought leaders in these different areas, some of the belief transference takes place just by them associating and listening to these people.
Yeah.
Well, hold on a second, I'm not so different to that person. You spend time with a Richard Branson, and on TV he looks like this untouchable person. But when you spend time with him, you realise he's just as much fun as you are. He's the biggest prankster going, and he's fun and he's vivacious and he's crazy. But also, he's taken the necessary action. Your brain suddenly figures out, well, I'm not too dissimilar to him in all these things. Maybe, just maybe, I can do some of the things he's done. And it's by this association I think it really makes a difference.
It's really striking to me that one of the keys to success that I've sort of observed with anyone who's incredibly successful is the ability to focus unrelentingly on one task. To literally laser beam down into one thing and nothing else gets in that person's way. If other outside influences come along, they'll knock those influences away unless they're there to help them reach their goal.
So true. They call it the concept of the shiny penny, which is that if we're here and we want to go there, it's like they start walking towards the goal and they, oh, shiny penny, and they don't pick it. The path is like zigzagging rather than just going to a straight line. You're absolutely right.
I mean, it is. It's something which is it's quite glaringly obvious. Let's talk about the speakers which are going to be joining you at the Success Summit. Of course, our own Francois Pienaar. There's an interesting one. A very, very well-known icon in South Africa. South African rugby legend, Francois. He kind of speaks for himself, and a hugely motivational person. JT Fox. Serial entrepreneur and real estate investor. Gee whiz, real estate's taken a pummeling over the last few years. That's going to be an interesting one to hear where it's going to go and how to make money out of real estate.
Yeah, and I think his talk this year is going to be more slanted on. He has a program called Mega Partnering, so he talks about how to pull business people together and how they can work together to achieve common objectives. I think that's really going to be most of his thoughts.
Fantastic. We can't ignore Steve Wozniak. He also, it speaks for itself, really. What a fantastic speaker that's going to be. He's just going to be brilliant, isn't he?
Yeah, he's an amazing guy. And he's really humble as well, which is nice. He's got this just very kind of very easy to listen to, kind of very sort of tangible. And we had a conference call with him about 6 months ago about what should I talk about in South Africa. I said, well, one thing you're going to learn about Johannesburg is people are very keen to get on with building their business and get on with things.
Yeah.
And South Africa is a different country from town to town. I mean, I compare Cape Town to Joburg, and I love Cape Town because it's just such a wonderful place to holiday. But in terms of getting my business and things done, Johannesburg people are so keen to move forward and get things going. And I think they're going to find that some of the pearls of wisdom that he shares from how he obviously Jobs built what is probably regarded as one of the most successful companies on earth today is, they're very simple lessons, but often most of the time these lessons are quite simple, but how you can implement them and build your businesses here, I think it's going to go down really well.
Who else would you do you recommend who you want to talk about who's going to be speaking there?
Well, I mean, let's not forget the Wolf of Wall Street. He's a colourful and interesting character.
Jordan Belfort. Yeah.
So, from building his wealth from some ill-gotten means to where he is today, I met him about 8 years ago when he was speaking in Sydney, Australia, and he was just getting on the circuit, and I was listening to his message, and he is one of the best persuader sort of influences I think I've ever listened to. I mean, he's incredibly powerful. And obviously now he's using those tools for good as opposed to what he was doing is what was depicted well in the film. And I think if you're somebody who's building a business, and if you're building any kind of business, sales is number one. Whether you're the CEO who needs to just sell to everybody the concept of what the business is all about, that's selling. And this whole concept of ABC, always be closing, always be teaching, always be influencing people around you to share that common goal and vision. And then that sort of perseverates down through your workforce and your sales team. And his tool is called the straight line theory, which is powerful. I mean, he actually him and his team came and trained our teams in London, and it was amazing the results they got from it. So I think he's going to be quite excited.
I also think with the release of the movie, and it's perfectly timed for this summit here. I mean, it really is. It's on everyone's lips at the moment. So
he's number one in the box office.
Yeah, absolutely. Dr. John DeMartini, we've spoken about, and I mean, it's a cracking lineup. It's a very, very cool lineup. What is the story with day one and day two? Are there 3 speakers per day? How does it work?
Yeah, it's going to work out to be about 5 speakers per day.
Okay.
Some of the speakers are content speakers. Some of the speakers have opportunity. So some of them you can listen to what they have to say, and then you can participate in some of their programs that they'll be running in South Africa months later. I really wanted to make sure this year we got the balance right.
Yep.
Sometimes, just commercially, these big multi-speaker events around the world, there can be too many people offering business opportunities, and people feel there isn't enough content there. And so we really addressed that this year and said, well, let's have more content speakers than anything else. People are just going to deliver significant value, so that when you attend, you've paid your ticket price, there's real strategies and tools that you get to learn from these speakers, rather than just
That's amazing.
Yeah, and it's really important to balance that right. And in South Africa, it's not like America. People here want value, and they want decent content. And if you're not giving them value and decent content, you'll hear about it very, very quickly. I know there was, we kicked off the whole Success Summit thing here a year ago, and since then a bunch of other companies appeared, and I think the local community here didn't feel there was enough value. They felt that they were being oversold to. There was too many business opportunities, which I think there's nothing wrong with that, but you've got to balance it with hardcore content so people get significant value from the 2 days that they're investing of their own time on a weekend when they could be with their kids or doing something else to actually get some useful tools.
Where else have you done this summit?
We've done it in Australia,
Yep.
in the UK.
Yeah.
And we're going to be reaching out to Malaysia. Some of the more emerging emerging economies, is where the target is. In America, the market's changed over there, and there aren't so many, success summits as there was. That market's really changed quite significantly.
Oh, it's going to change again.
Yeah, it will.
What goes up
cyclical.
must
Right,
come down,
cyclical.
and so it goes.
Yeah.
So, what I want to ask about South Africa, because I know people will want to know your take on this. You've complimented South Africans very much so far, but who's the hardest working and most prolific nation in the world that you've visited or that you've had an encounter with? I think as South Africans, we're pretty damn hard working.
Yeah, I think you are, and I think, but what the difference between Cape Town and Johannesburg is like night and day for me. It really is. I mean, that's not to put anybody in Cape Town down and say I don't know.
No. They know it. Don't worry.
It's just it seems to be they've made their money, and it's very much. I mean, it's a beautiful country. I mean, if you've made your money and you want to go chill out, go hang out in Cape Town. But it seems here in Joburg, people are up for it more so than in London now.
Yeah.
It seems people are grabbing an opportunity. When I was involved in this Branson Centre Entrepreneurship opening, I think it's in Bloemfontein I think that's the part of Joburg it's in. Just meeting some of the young entrepreneurs then, what they did was quite clever. They mixed some really serial entrepreneurs from South Africa who were doing extraordinarily well with kind of newbie entrepreneurs who were just getting started. And it was quite clever, that, because it's exactly as I was talking about, this whole idea of belief shift,
Yes.
And the way they took to it and the response they had from it wasn't just, well, let's listen to some wealthy people tell us about their life story. They were, demanding answers to business questions they had, asking for feedback, asking for support, asking if they can get involved. And I haven't seen that so much in other cultures as I have so much here. There seems to be a keenness and an eagerness to get on with things and get moving. So
Fantastic.
I think that's very important.
One final question for me, anyway. I don't believe a thing that I read on Wikipedia, but sometimes it's interesting to pick up some bits and pieces. You flew a helicopter over London 9 times and did some trading in the air, a little bit of forex trading. Is that a true story? Can we believe Wikipedia?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. No, I'm a helicopter pilot and I own a Robinson 44 heli.
Yeah.
Just for mucking about. The range on it's less than 200 miles, but it's I have a charity foundation and we start using trading to make money. So I wanted to prove that you can make money anywhere, anytime, any place. So it's more of a media gimmick. But literally, I flew over London with like a 4G transponder thing in it, which picks up the internet connection.
Right.
I'm sending trade calls to some website. All that, just ridiculous. And all these people around the world are picking up these calls and trying to trade them. Well, of course, air traffic control in London is hating the fact that I'm hovering over the city, because I find there's one telephone mast which is above the HSBC tower. And I'm just hovering above it, and people are waving from the window. But it was really,
fantastic.
but we made some good money, and yeah, so that's what we
That's
did.
a
Made some good
great
money.
story.
Yeah, it's quite fun, and it's kind of how we generate. We do funny little things like that to generate funds for our charity foundation. So we do like a 24-hour trade-a-thon or the Flying Trader project, and all these different. Every year I've got to think of a new gimmick. So it's either I think the one that's been bounded around at the moment is the naked trade. I've got to sit somewhere trading naked.
Wow.
There's not a lot to show there, I'm afraid. But,
Andrew, I wanted to ask, is it your first time in South Africa?
No, I've been here a number of times, yeah.
Is it? And your opinion about South Africa?
I think it's a lovely place. I think it's very diverse. I think there's a lot of opportunity in this country. This country is led by, in the past, by great leadership. And I think, what makes a great country is great people. And I think there's a lot of opportunity, and that's what people are looking for in this country. They're looking for that individual, those people to come out and just show, what it takes to be successful and help them regarding that.
And you're one of the speakers at the conference.
That's correct, yes.
What are you going to be covering in your speech?
Well, wealth psychology is very, very important, yeah. So what does it actually take to become wealthy and successful in life, rather than the education side of things, yeah.
Oh, that's very interesting. Can you give us a little sneaky peek into
Yeah, well, I'll definitely, yeah. I'll be sharing, the 4 rules of how to create wealth, which is very, very important. Without these, I guess, 4 strategies, wealth will elude you in your life. And if you have these with the right implementation, you'll definitely get there. But more importantly, we have to find out exactly what you want. Everybody's very diverse in what they want in life. And once you know that and understand that, then anything's possible. And that's when the magic happens. The program I developed was called The Millionaire Within, because I believe the millionaire lives within everybody.
Awesome. Tickets are on sale. You can go to the website successummit2014.co.za. General admission will cost you just under 1,500 Rand. It is for 2 days. It happens on the 1st and 2nd of March at the Sandton Convention Centre. There's some great news as well, because the folks from the Success Summit have very kindly given us tickets to give away. Let's tell you exactly what we've got. We've got 5 general tickets valued at 1,500 Rand each, as we mentioned. There are 3 VIP tickets valued at 6,000 Rand each, and there's a platinum ticket ticket valued at 13,500 rand. Does anyone know what the difference is between them? What do you get for a platinum ticket? Is there a extra sort of meeting with the speakers and more chats and stuff?
Yeah, platinum means you're right at the front, so you're
Yeah.
in the first 2 rows.
Yeah.
So you can, you're right up front
Yeah.
and personal with the speakers. You get a champagne reception with Wozniak and all the speakers, and a lunch reception with with all the head speakers. So you get to meet and greet them,
Yeah.
Get to ask them personal questions. There's a separate series of Q&A that happens in the platinum room where you get to ask, Wozniak how he built the business and how he maybe could help you in your business or what ideas he might have. So it's a much smaller group. And it's a really great way to do it. If you ever wanted to meet these people all together in one room, then this is really the chance to do it.
Awesome.
All right, fantastic. So those tickets, will tell you how we can go about giving away those and how you can get involved with winning those tickets if you'd like to. Otherwise, if you'd like to go and make yourself a part of the summit, it happens on the 1st and 2nd of March, Sandton Convention Centre, and point your browser to successummit2014.co.za. Guys, thanks for coming in today. It's such a great pleasure to have you back in South Africa, and thanks for sharing some of the business love and and some of the success stories that you have to give to South Africans.
It's our pleasure. Thanks very much.
Cheers, thank you.
All right, there you go. Success Summit 2014. Go check out the website for yourself.
The Business on balls.co.za. Brought to you by FNB Business Banking.